Hey everyone, and welcome back. This is Crazy About the SWA podcast, and I am your host, Crazy Ralf. Tonight, episode 3. Gonna do a little bit of a solo pod, little late night solo pod action. Last episode we had Tomato on. We talked about Diego Mercer and Deadfire quite a bit, and looking forward to season 3 and episode 35 and what might we expect. Now, here we are. Episode 35, has come and gone. And we've seen our first taste of some of the new crop of wrestlers into the SWA. So, going to be a pretty simple show tonight. I want to break down episode 35, talk through some of the matches, maybe look into a little bit of the deep cuts on some of the storylines running in there, maybe what they might be focusing on in the near future here in the SWA. And then I want to just kind of run through maybe a little bit of a bio, a little bit of a analysis on all of the new SWA wrestlers. So stick around for that after our episode 35 recap here that I'm going to start right now. And if you have no idea, once again, what we're talking about here, this is Crazy About the SWA podcast. The SWA, Simulation Wrestling Alliance, hosted on the SBA Today forums. Come on down, sign up. We're having an awful lot of fun. And I'm sure we'd be glad to have you. If you'd signed up a week ago, you would have been on this podcast. I would have been talking about you. So you really missed out. Anyway, here's the recap. Episode 35 recap. We had 7 matches. 2 matches we had all new SWA talents in them. The first match of the night, match number 1, was a first fall triple threat match between all new SWA talent Tim Bob, Void, and Raccoon. Now this match was a real nice back and forth. I like this one. Tim Bob, great showing, first match, took a beating. We've seen some wrestlers in the past really kind of just get hammered in their debuts. Comes to mind Diego Mercer being the Phoenix, really has a good longevity wrestling style. Dr. Morbius. Tim Bob might be one of those wrestlers where he just see him he got pounded during the match effectively, but still stuck with it, still put in good offense and had a really nice showing. Maybe the biggest surprise was Void. Void is a real tall boy, that's for sure. Billed as the tallest wrestler in the SWA proper. Void, standing 7 feet tall, really showed off his entire wrestling chops. We saw a lot of big moves from Void, and I think that could be an interesting strategy from him because, you know, a lot of people behind the scenes, a lot of people sitting in that weight room, sitting in the lockers, are going to watch that match and be like, all right, I know what Void's cooking with. I know what I need to work with to show up Void. Obviously, you have to get over the fact that he is a 7-foot man with a huge kick type move. But he had a ton of flashy signature moves and finishers and all but a perfect showing except for the final entrant, Raccoon, came up with the win. Had a cheeky kind of pin on Void after he had took on the ref for a little while, maybe got a couple extra hits in, but when the ref woke up, he saw Void was pinned and Raccoon was on top, so 1, 2, 3, and Raccoon takes the first of our 2 SWA new talent matches, and that's a nice start for Raccoon. That's probably a nice stepping stone into his season 3 aspirations, and hopefully maybe a push towards maybe an Ascent Championship or a Golden Trial match. We'll see what the future of these 3 wrestlers will hold. The second match of the night was a first fall match that I've dubbed the Orange and Black Classic. Both wrestlers, Raj Rajwana and Brian Strong, sporting a black and orange motif. Coming into this one, Raj was featured to kind of have the upper hand. Bryan was on a bit of a slide, hadn't done particularly well on any of his recent matches, and Raj with a really nice performance at last season's 2-night stand. Um, but it was not to be for Raj, unfortunately. Bryan really just got rolling early, never really let Raj into it, and just sealed the deal. A couple big hits at the end, a frog splash, and a uh, got uh, got Rajwana over to the ropes, and just another big move, and that put Raj away in quick fashion. But as far as the two competitors go, I think that Raj is gonna take this match and really internalize it. Uh, this one's gonna serve to steal Rajwana's morale, and I think we'll see big things from both of these wrestlers. But I'm thinking that Raj is gonna really want to make a push here in season 3. So we'll see what Raj has for the rest of the season. But losing on night 1 match. Not the best look, unfortunately, but I'm sure he'll turn it around in quick order. Match number 3. First fall triple threat match with all new SWA talent. And this one I've dubbed the Towers match. All of the wrestlers were above 6'8". Granted, we didn't have the tallest wrestler. We didn't have Void in this match, but all the wrestlers who were in this one were just big boys. And most of them happened to be striker styles. We didn't see tons and tons of grappling, just a lot of big hits, big elbows, big boots. And this one was between Flint Buckshot, the Iranian Juggernaut, and Russell Nash. This one was pretty much a no contest. The Iranian Juggernaut rolled over both Czar and Flint. They tried to put up a fight, but I think this one was Czar's to win to begin with. But this one might have started a bit of a rivalry. We saw Czar and Nash team up on Flint for quite a while in the corner during the match, so it might have sent tensions high with this group of wrestlers. So we'll see where this trio winds up in the next couple matches, events that we have coming up in the SWA. But I'll be interested to see where these three interact with each other, and this might be the start of an interesting rivalry or feud or something going into the future. Match 4. Deadfire versus Bobby Plaster in a handicap match. Now here at the Crazy About the SWA podcast, if I ever do one of these breakdowns, I'm going to kind of be like, that was the match of the night. So I'm picking match 4, Deadfire versus Bobby Plaster, as our match of the night. Deadfire obviously looking to cruise to kind of an easy win on Bobby, the greatest ever Plaster. Handicap match, 2v1, easy clap. Bobby isn't even that good of a wrestler, and Deadfire was making it very well known that they thought this as well. They were talking a lot of trash to Bobby all throughout the week before the match, and then to everyone's surprise, Bobby Plaster's stunt double, his twin, his someone who looked identical to Bobby Plaster, came down the ramp with Bobby Plaster. And everyone was shocked. I was shocked. The announcers were shocked. I'm sure Deadfire was shocked. Actually, probably Deadfire was the most shocked because they could never really get anything rolling. They just couldn't believe that they were facing two Bobby Plasters. And frankly, they dropped the match. It was theirs to win, and they gave it up to the two Plasters, the Plaster pair, if you will. Now, speculation here, but this might cause some trouble for Deadfire, as they'd been confidently calling out Plaster all week beforehand, and then very promptly lost to both Plasters. And the other side of that is we don't know if Plaster and Plaster will remain as a tag team going forward. This obviously Bobby had done a recent movie deal, and there was a lot of talk about a stunt double in the production of that movie. So potentially that their friendship will continue and they'll continue to wrestle together, but it remains to be seen. This might be a one-off thing, but it might not. So we'll be looking forward to the developments with the two plasters wrestling together. Match 5. First falls match between Lazar Malveaux and Nathan Bogard, the Lion King. Going into this one, Lazar has had a pretty positive career. One of our Season 1 entrants, Lazar has kind of cemented himself into the upper tiers of the power rankings. Maybe not top 10. If I'm not mistaken, going into this one, he was, I believe, 15th. I'm sure I'll be yelled at in the comments for my lack of knowledge on this particular matter, but he's been a real style icon in the SWA. The body hair, the slick back hairdo with the white stripe, the stench of alcohol from whatever bar he had just rolled off of to come to the arena. He's got he really oozes charisma. And that's something you really can't take away from Lazar. His opponent, however, Nathan Bogard, was one of the SWA's kind of like brightest Season 2 stars, having his debut match in Season 1, and having great showings in all of his recent matches, all the way through Season 2, and even earning a nod for his match against DDT and Yasuke Bozeman in the night 2 of Season 1's 2-night stand match in the top 10 matches of Season 1. Bogard is clearly on the come up, clearly making a big push, and this match was kind of a defined hurdle for Bogard, I think, to start pushing for a spot in the upper tiers of the SWA, competitors' pantheon, tier list, power rankings, what have you. Because as of right now, I think Nathan Bogard's getting a little bit of a undersold reputation, because he's done a lot of winning. He's lost a couple matches to some very, very good wrestlers, but has always put up a fight. So I think we're going to see big things from Bogard this season. During the match, though, it was a real slug. Obviously, Lazar putting up a season fight, but the young gun submission wrestler in the end, excuse the joke, but pounced on this opportunity and won in grand fashion, setting up his kind of first steps to a big Season 3 push going into the next matches here and going into the first pay-per-view. We'll see what developments happen on Bogard's front. Match 6, Casey Starr versus Luke Thompson. Now, this one has a little bit more history behind it, because obviously back when Casey Starr was feuding with Al Sebastian about Al Sebastian's naming right initially, and then obviously about Al Sebastian just existing, period, I guess, to a mysterious wrestler who appeared to be Ulysses S.C.8 wrestling against Al Sebastian in the Season 2 Royal Rumble and securing a title shot instead of Al Sebastian. That wrestler turned out to be Luke Thompson, someone that Casey Starr had partnered with and had brought to the SWA to help him ascend to an eventual championship run and to humiliate Al Sebastian. However, what ended up happening after Luke Thompson is revealed as Luke Thompson and not as whatever unmustached Ulysses S.C.8's lookalike type wrestler, Luke Thompson goes off and wins the SWA World Championship off of Tomiya Yamaguchi, who had at that point had a blazing record, had held the belt for an entire season, all of Season 2, having picked up the belt in Season 1 and had only just dropped it in the end of Season 2. Thompson won the belt. And then Casey Starr, obviously being a little jealous of Thompson, who now had the belt, probably started feuding at that point, and then Thompson promptly lost the belt to Songres, but earned another shot a few matches later and was unceremoniously disqualified when Casey Starr interrupted his match in favor of Luke Thompson. So not only did Thompson lose his opportunity for the belt again, he lost it because of Casey Starr coming in to to effectively ruin Luke Thompson's chances. So these two are now feuding openly. They don't like each other, and it's this feud could really not be thicker than it already is, or maybe it could. You never know. But during the match progressed about as well as you might expect. Thompson being a much larger, a much taller, a much maybe more powerful wrestler than Casey Starr, really just kind of started to roll over Casey. But, probably what was the most shocking moment of the night occurred. It wasn't our match of the night, but it definitely had the biggest moment in it, the most mysterious moment, when during the match the arena music started playing and Luke Thompson directed his attention towards the ramp. Right, we had no idea who was coming down the ramp, and actually we didn't see anyone. We didn't see anyone come down the ramp. Thompson was confused. The crowd was confused. The announcers were confused, and I'm sure anyone else watching at home was confused. But then a mysterious ally appeared in the ring behind Luke Thompson and did him in with a kind of big grapple move, and no one has ever seen this wrestler before, and no one has since seen that wrestler. In fact, I don't talk about that wrestler in my kind of new wrestler breakdown because we have no idea who that is. The only one that we're not entirely sure who it is Zane Ryder, because there's very little information on Zane Ryder, and maybe Anthony Hager. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But we have no idea who this mysterious ally to Casey Starr is. And unfortunately, it didn't end up helping Casey Starr, but the sheer mystery of who that wrestler might be is why that match was particularly intriguing. So if you have any tips, if you have any exclusive information, please feel free to drop us a line or post in the comments or something about that mysterious wrestler that's helping Casey Starr attack Luke Thompson during the match 6 match at season 3, episode 35. And honestly, this feud's probably far from over. Like I said, the introduction of this mysterious ally has pretty numerous implications that we have no bearing on. We can't probably physically list the who all of the possibilities of who this might be or what this might mean for Casey Starr and Luke Thompson or what have you. So I guess we'll just have to keep watching in season 3 and see where this develops. And then finally, in the main event, which probably would have been the match of the night, but with the Deadfire versus Bobby Plaster match getting such a huge crowd pop and just being such a fun match, this one probably a close second. But this was a first fall match between Triple G and Tomoyo Yamaguchi with DDT, his Dirty Deeds tag partner, ringside. And this one was like a pseudo rematch of their Right to Fight match pairing. Gray faced off, obviously, longtime rival Tomoyo Yamaguchi in this one, but the history on it was the Disciples of Gray and Dirty Deeds faced off with Triple G and Sparkles on the Disciples of Gray's side, and obviously Yamaguchi and Thomas on Dirty Deeds' side for the tag belt. Gray and Sparkles lost that match because Sparkles, according to Gray, who promptly threw Sparkles under the bus after losing, was pinned, and Gray didn't see much wrestling time whatsoever. So he kind of very vocally wanted a rematch against Tomio and said, I have all these people on the Disciples of Gray. Obviously, we haven't seen Art Vandelay for a while since Chiamaka Ndigwe attacked him backstage. Now, Sparkles may or may not be among the Disciples of Gray anymore after dropping the match to Dirty Deeds, much to Triple G's chagrin. So the amount of allies to Triple G might be dwindling here. But that's just speculation for now, because last episode 35, he didn't need any of the Disciples of Grey. He backed up his words, and what ensued was anything kind of but what was expected for Dirty Deeds to kind of roll over Grey here. Obviously, no hardware was on the line, no belts or anything, but I'm sure heavy bragging rights for Grey or for Dirty Deeds camps were wagered backstage. But it was a great match, a really good back and forth of two of the top talents in the SWA. They put on a clinic, each wrestling in their own styles. Obviously, Dirty Deeds, DDT attempted to assist when possible. He threw a chair into the ring. He interrupted the ref. He was jawing with Grey, but honestly, to no avail. The match might have come out a different way if Tomio Yamaguchi hit his go to sleep. There was a final kind of flurry from Tomio at the end, but he was a little too close to the ropes when he hit his finisher go to sleep, and Grey landed essentially touching the ropes. So no pin, no submission attempt was possible, and Grey stood up and hit a big old Grey mist on Yama, and that ended with a 3 count. So it might have landed on. It might have been a coin flip. Honestly, this was such a close match; it was hard to tell. But Grey came away with it, and this one was an interesting one because the implications on this one are Yamaguchi has kind of started suffering a little bit of a slide after being one of the most, frankly, dominant forces in the SWA for the entirety of season 2 and maybe a little bit before then. Is a little bit shocking to me. And Grey with, I believe that was his. It was like he's north of 20 wins now. I'm pretty sure. I think he's either at 20 or like 21 or 22 or something like that. He's got the most wins in the SWA right now. And some might argue that some of his wins are a little bit, how should I say, not fair, not true wins, where he just kind of beat up on, obviously, Art Vandelay, on Sparkles, some of the lower ranked wrestlers in the promotion, to force them to join his cult, effectively. Excuse me, his gracious the disciples of the gracious one. But yeah, so no, Grey with a mighty win over one of the SWA's most recent mighty and strongest competitors. I bet we're probably destined to see more matchups exactly like this one, probably between Grey and Dirty Deeds, or between some of the members of the Disciples of Grey and Dirty Deeds, maybe DDT versus someone on the Greys. But I imagine this will be a feud that we'll see going into Season 3 between two of the powerhouse tag teams and two of the powerhouse, or even 4 or 5 of the powerhouse singles wrestlers in Grey and DDT and Tomio and some of the Disciples of Grey. So that was kind of a wrap up of episode 35. And maybe with some intrigue, maybe some new stuff you guys didn't notice or didn't know about going into the matches. But I kind of want to transition away from that and talk about all of our Season 3 new wrestlers, because there are quite a lot of them, if I'm honest. We recently saw a big push by SWA management to really kind of bolster the roster, and we've seen an influx of new talent coming through. A lot of people coming up from the minor leagues or from the amateur promotion circuits, and some people who have never wrestled before or we have no information on. So we're going to try to go through this list and give everyone a fair shake and a concise kind of like what they're about, what maybe their kind of strengths are. Maybe they have a pretty pronounced weakness or something, but We're gonna start off with Tim Bob. Now, Tim Bob was one of our first new signees to the SWA, and we've actually had the benefit of seeing him in the ring. We saw him in a match between Raccoon and Void in a triple threat rookies match, rookie showcase, and we saw a lot of interesting stuff from Tim Bob. Obviously, his entrance, the flaming or smoking skull that he brought down to the ring with him. There's not really much that we know about what that's all about. It could just be some Halloween spirit, or it could be something more sinister. I guess we'll have to wait and find out on the front of Tim Bob's smoking skull. But as a wrestler, we saw a lot of striking style moves. Tim Bob positions himself as a heavyweight striker, and if anything is indicated by his past collegiate sport career, the rumor mill down south in the Alabama sports circles is that he's got quite the cannon attached to his arm. But, he played a lot of sports in college. It wasn't just one thing. He was kind of a jack of all trades, and I think that might translate into his SWA wrestling style, as we haven't really seen much of a concentration in one area, except for his indicated striking style. Perhaps, though, we did see quite a heavy use of the sleeper hold from Tim Bob, and that might be one of his go-to kind of signatures, trying to choke out an opponent real quick. And he also has the Alabama Slammer. We haven't heard maybe a specific Tim Bob exclusive naming convention for that move, but it is an Alabama Slammer, and Tim Bob being from Alabama, I guess that fits in quite well. The only thing that I might kind of consider as a weakness is Tim Bob's momentum. He never really kind of got anything going during the match. He took quite a beating, unfortunately, and that might be the sign of what kind of wrestler he is. Someone who's going to stick around, someone who's going to be able to last in a match. Unfortunately, in his rookie showcase, it wasn't to be. But being held in contention for a well-lasting wrestler like that of Diego Mercer, or that of Dr. Morbius, or maybe of Paragon, someone who just kind of continually stays in the fight, is a good thing. And but I think he might struggle with his momentum early on here. But we'll see interesting and exciting things from Tim Bob going into the future. Next up is Rock, Flag, and Eagle. One of the most interesting naming conventions in SWA. Rock, Flag, and Eagle, or I'm probably going to call them RFE from now on. There isn't really much known about them. We at the SWA, crazy about the SWA, couldn't really dig up any concrete information about Rock, Flag, and Eagle beyond perhaps his obvious patriotism and his rumored copious, luscious chest hair that might even give Lazar Malveaux a run for his money. Lazar, obviously well known for his well-groomed and thick, heavy chest hair. Rock, Flag, and Eagle is 6'5" heavyweight, billed as a powerhouse wrestler, and if anything is an indication, the scouts have lauded. They've had many good things to say about his running and aerial offense for such a large competitor. So maybe we'll see some TM flippy shit from Rock, Flag, and Eagle, but who's to say? We haven't quite seen him in a match just yet. And just kind of off the virtue of not having much information about Rock, Flag, and Eagle, it's probably going to be tough to discern a weakness. So I might have to hold off on what would be his weakness. But if anything is an indication, our informants behind the scenes in the SWA locker rooms indicate that maybe his bench press numbers could use a little bit of a boost. They're a little bit underwhelming for such a big guy. But that's neither here nor there. He could just be taking it light. So we're not quite sure on the severity, if at all, there's a problem with his upper body strength, or maybe even his upper body defense, maybe a little bit weaker up there. But who's to say? Certainly not us. So we're excited for Rock Flag and Eagle to make his debut, possibly in season 36 or possibly in episode 36. And yeah. Next up, we have Tsar, the Iranian Juggernaut. And I apologize if I am butchering his name. Unfortunately, I don't have a correct pronunciation, or a pronunciation that I'm entirely sure that would be correct. But in the future, I will have something a little bit more accurate, I believe. But going forward, for this little kind of expose, we're going to just go with Iranian Juggernaut or Juggernaut to kind of work around the situation. Anyway, being one of our other wrestlers that got their debut in episode 35, Tsar really, really got off to a great start and won their debut match versus Flint Buckshot and Russell Nash. And he really showed up. Obviously, he is a massive wrestler, billed as the heaviest wrestler in the SWA, even 50 pounds heavier than Paragon, and Paragon is a paltry 400 pounds compared to the Iranian Juggernaut's 450 pounds. So an extra 50 pounds of pure unadulterated muscle that is on display with his kind of huge hulking style. He doesn't move too quick, but all of his moves are just massive. Almost 7 foot, 450 pounds. He really is a monster, and this is maybe I jokingly say this, but this is the age of the super heavyweight and the heavyweight, because I believe most of, if not all of our new SWA wrestlers are in the heavyweight or higher category, or are north of 6'5". There's only a few who made it into the lower weight classifications. But Tsar is definitely a scary competitor. I think we've seen just the beginning of an absolute stellar career for him. And if his big boot is anything to judge off of, he's going to have one hell of a time in the SWA. It is to be said, though, that he, being such a big guy, moving so slowly, he might have some difficulty against these technical submission or power submission style wrestlers. Your DDTs, your Nathan Bogarts, if you will. He might run into some trouble against them, but if he doesn't turn their bones to dust before they can lock in a submission. So we'll see what the future holds for the Juggernaut. But it looks bright, if I'm honest. Up next, Anthony Hager. Now, Hager is a bit of a mystery in the wrestling world right now. We don't quite know where the 6'8" heavyweight really came from. It kind of came out of the blue. There's no information on him in any former wrestling promotions. He's not been seen in the SWA locker rooms or the weight rooms. The only information we could really find on Anthony was that maybe, according to a passage in a book by famous oilman Kodiak Jack, that Hagar has a bar in Texas, and that he was briefly a bouncer for the 80s super band and biggest band in the world probably at the time, Van Halen. So a little bit larger than life. It'll be interesting to see what his wrestling style employs, and as it's, I believe, just been announced that he will showcase in one of the episode 36 matches against several of the other new SWA opponents. It'll be interesting to see what he really brings to the ring, because we've never seen or heard of Hagar the Roughneck before. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops and how he gets on in the SWA. So we're excited for him at Crazy About the SWA, looking into season 3. Next up is Russell Nash. Nash was one of the other wrestlers who debuted on episode 35. The Bulldog, a 6'9" heavyweight, had a pretty good performance in his triple threat match with the Iranian Juggernaut and Flint Buckshot. Ultimately, it was his undoing that sealed the win for Czar, eating a absolute monstrous kick to the chest and face region. But just from his first match, it seems like Russell's going to be a little bit of a crafty wrestler, and the rumors behind stage is that there's famously an arcade punching machine behind the stage at the SWA locker rooms, and Russell Nash promptly set one of the highest scores that we'd ever seen on the machine. So he can punch and supposedly kick with the best of them, and poses a chance to be a real scrappy kind of brawler type wrestler, maybe even like a shooter. So we'll see what the future for Russell Nash holds. Obviously, a loss in his first debut match isn't the way he really wanted to start his SWA career. But once we get into the thick of season 3 here, I'm sure Russell Nash will find his element and really start delivering some hearty performances. So we're excited about that. Next up, we have Kimi Räikkönen Jr. Yeah, that's right, Kimi Räikkönen Jr. And if you consider yourself any sort of Formula One fan, or if you've watched Formula One in the last, I don't know, probably 10 years, 15 years, Kimi has been around. Kimi is, as you might know, a former Formula One driver, Kimi Räikkönen. And this is supposedly his son. We're not entirely sure if this is just Kimi pulling a prank or if this is genuinely his son, but we're going to operate off the fact that it is his son. And obviously he's not Formula One racing. He's over here in Texas performing live shows on the squared circle for SWA. And beyond much of his basic information, once again, we really don't know much about Kimi Räikkönen Jr. and how he'll wrestle. But he is one of our smallest new competitors, the 150-pound 5'6" cruiserweight. We'll see how he fares. Similar to how Rock Flag and Eagle Tim Bob might potentially struggle in a sea of absolute monster men. Kimi Räikkönen Jr. is really going to have his trouble cut out for him, or his efforts dashed, perhaps, by the just sheer size of some of his competitors that he'll have to wrestle against. But it sounds like he might be a little bit of a technician. Obviously, being Formula One, it's going to be very precise and very accurate in a lot of what he does, and we'll see how well he can run laps around our SWA ring to defeat his opponents in wrestling and not in Formula One driving. But we're excited nonetheless, and we're looking forward to Kimi's debut either in episode 36 or further down the line. Up next, Flint Buckshot. Buckshot also had his debut at episode 35. Standing in the ring with that triple threat match with Czar and Nash. He's a true mountain man, and that's a double entendre if you missed it. Being born up in the Canadian Rockies, he's literally a mountain man, and he is also, I believe, 6'10" or 6'9", just a true huge man. So perhaps his nickname should be the Mountain. But Flint Buckshot, super heavyweight build, showed he was no pushover in his triple threat match, landing multiple massive blows to both of his opponents. But the thing that occurred that stood out to me was he took a lot of beating from Czar and Nash. They kind of teamed up on him in the corner. So it might develop a little bit of a rivalry. So we'll see where that develops. But his rural upbringing seems to have prepared him for the SWA wrestling circuit, and I think he'll go far with his career, and we're excited to see more from Flint Buckshot and his brand of wrestling. Next up, we have Jean-Baptiste, formerly known, or perhaps unfortunately to him, known as the Goon. He certainly has made it clear that he does prefer Jean-Baptiste. Seems to have bounced, according to our reports, in and out of jail, the Slammer, on multiple occasions in his early youth. Mixed up with some drugs, mixed up with some partying, mixed up with the wrong crowd. And he was in and out. And the thing that really kind of kept him going in prison was wrestling. On his release, the Square Circle called his name. He said, "I'm going to make an effort at this," and it seems like he's going to be a real interesting one to watch. From his leaked SWA training tapes, he's seen explaining how he's adapting certain moves from other SWA wrestlers into his kind of own unique style. So I'm going to be really excited to see how Jean-Baptiste performs in the new Season 3 SWA competition. Another one who got their debut in episode 35 versus Tim Bob and Void. This is Raccoon the Body. This one is a little bit of a weird one for me because being from Minnesota, we formerly had a governor, Jesse Ventura, who went by the name The Body. And that was certainly an interesting time to be alive. But The Body hails from Oakland, California, and is a bodybuilder. True to brand. The Body is a bodybuilder, but he his performance in his match seems to indicate a kind of tricky side that we haven't seen much from a lot of other wrestlers in the SWA. Knocking down the ref, sending folks out of the ring, kind of performing shifty maneuvers and playing possum. Had a lot of quick recovery kip-ups after getting hit, so maybe being a little disrespectful and no-selling some of the other competitors' moves and just kind of going for a win. And win he did. He took his opportunity and won their match, pinning Void for the win. So I'm excited to see where he takes his next steps and opportunities into the future of the SWA, because obviously he started on the right foot, going into maybe a golden trial or maybe even a Ascent champion belt match. So we'll see what we have from Raccoon coming into episode 36, season 3. Up next is Zane Ryder. And now here at Crazy About the SWA, we're pretty proud of our research department. And by that I mean I'm pretty proud of myself for being able to dig through some of the network pieces and go through some of the old matches and kind of dig up some storylines that maybe people have forgotten about. But when I tell you, beyond the contractual obligations to reveal his basic kind of body style and wrestling style, the 6'4" heavyweight from Roswell, New Mexico, billed as the Wraith, is frankly a complete mystery. We have no idea who this is, what he looks like, what he's about, what kind of wrestling style he's going to employ. So this one's going to be pretty brief. I'm excited to see what Zane Ryder even looks like, despite his, not to mention his wrestling style. So complete mystery in Zane Ryder. But he does, I believe, get a shot at episode 36 to make his debut. So we'll be watching with bated breath as Zane Ryder walks down the ramp for the first time. Next up, Alonzo A-Train Howard. A-Train, billed from Charleston, South Carolina, is somewhat of a musician, somewhat of a natural performer. maybe it's a bit harsh to say failed musician, because I don't think he failed. It just never really took off for him. Being the frontman of a band, it seems like it just didn't work out, unfortunately for him. So he switched gears. He had done a little bit of gymnastics, and Howard honed his high flying style in the amateur wrestling promotions in Charleston area, and really put in the work. Uh, there's a lot of people that obviously we don't know a ton about coming into the SWA this season. Obviously, people who haven't even wrestled at all. But A-Train seems to have a pretty extensive history in the wrestling ring, and we're excited to see this new potential face. It seems like he's a real stand-up guy, so we're looking forward to see a new face in the SWA, literally and figuratively, to make his debut in the coming episodes. Up next, we have Void. Void's debut probably went about as well as you can hope to expect, except for him winning the match that he was in. Void, billed as the tallest wrestler in the SWA to date, at 7 feet, really put on a showcase of everything he's about. Multiple big moves, huge kind of like kick attacks. He had a couple big boots, maybe not as big as Czar's, but at the time it was certainly the biggest boot we had seen all night. Void pounded on Tim Bob and Raccoon within an inch of their quote-unquote reality, as he might put it. And his style, his wrestling attire is quite unique. We haven't really seen anything quite like Void, except maybe for Ermac, Season 2 SWA wrestler that we haven't seen, unfortunately, a ton of since his debut. So hopefully he makes a return before Void takes his kind of crown as the weird, interesting, galactic, cyber something demon. Who knows? Who knows what Void is? It's not quite sure, but he's definitely got something interesting going on. And our Crazy About the SWA informants have indicated that there's quite a stench coming from Void's locker room. So it might be something he ate, or we're just really not sure at this moment. So we'll see. Maybe once we see more of Void wrestle, we'll see what he has to offer in the SWA in Season 3. Up next, we have AZ, or billed as Alpha Omega. Another slightly unknown wrestler, unfortunately. We don't know a ton about him, but if it's anything to be said that we don't know about his wrestling style, we do know about his appearances and his attire, and judging based exclusively off those, effectively. Here at Crazy About the SWA, we think his attire might be one of the very best in the SWA, and obviously we haven't seen him wrestle yet, but if he wrestles as good as he looks, he's going to go far. So we're excited for AZ, but once again, we don't have too much information on him beyond that he might have in his arsenal a really wicked Boston Crab, and it's a move we don't see too much in the SWA, unfortunately. So we'll see how Alpha Omega fares in his Season 3 debut. Down to our final two new entrant wrestlers in the SWA, Angel Sabin, or Sabin. Hopefully I haven't butchered his name as well. I believe it is Angel. But he's a high flyer, no doubt, for sure. One of our smallest wrestlers in the freshman class, Angel, has really impressed the SWA scouts with his high rope and running or springboard offense. He's projecting to be a real threat with his TM flippy shit. And he will probably join the elite company in the SWA as a practitioner of said flippy shit very quickly, and we hope he will make a splash in his debut coming up here in Season 3. And finally, last but not least, Kevin Maverick, the Dragon Prince. And what can be said about the Dragon Prince besides that he likes dragons? A lot of dragons. The self-styled Dragon Specialist. SWA scouts have reported to us that Kevin only goes for the dragon variant moves or moves with the name dragon in them. So at least he's on brand, So we haven't seen what he looks like yet. Unfortunately, no promotional images have been posted. But if the Dragon Prince is all that is advertised, knowing that some of the dragon variant moves are particularly fun to watch, particularly hard to pull off. He will be a true spectacle in the SWA going forward, and we're hoping that he makes his debut soon. Well, folks, that's it for this evening's episode 3, Crazy About the SWA podcast. Kind of a rambly one, I'll admit, and but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Coming in episode 3 or episode 36, excuse me, of the SWA, happening tonight. If you're listening right now, it probably is already happening. So I'll for next week's pod, I'll do a quick breakdown of episode 36 when the pod releases, and then we'll talk about who knows what we'll talk about. I'll find something to talk about, and we definitely have a couple guests have expressed interest in coming on, so maybe we'll have one of them on next week, and it should be a lot of fun. So thanks for tuning in to Crazy About the SWA podcast. This is Crazy Ralf. Please feel free to tune in tonight to episode 36 of the SWA at moleholtgaming.twitch TV. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. We got 2 matches from another 2 triple threats for the rookie showcase. So we're going to get 6 more new faces up at the SWA and a whole host of other interesting matches. So please come out tonight and we're going to have a lot of fun. But yeah, this is Crazy Ralf signing off episode 3 of the Crazy About the SWA podcast. Ralf out.